Hello. Welcome back to Insaniquarium. Hola.
Ciao amici, mi
Hola.
chiamo Anna.
Bienvenidos a Insaniquarium Deluxe.
Questo è Conrad.
I know so little about Italian that it just sounded like you were making fun of Italian people.
Hey, just because my accent is poor. No, Italian was the first language that I studied in college, and unfortunately, neither the college nor the class nor Italian really worked out, but Italian was great, very similar to Spanish, which I studied in high school, and I did discover then, as with Russian as well, though, that even though if someone were to speak to me in Italian or Russian or whatever language, even though I would not be able to speak to them fluently, if someone spoke to me in another language, suddenly I would be able to recall every single word that I ever learned with perfect clarity. And that was a real struggle I had in the first quarter or two of my Russian language studies in college, was that all of a sudden all my Spanish came back. Couldn't speak Spanish if I needed to, but for some reason if I was trying to take a test in Russian, all I could remember was the Spanish word for things.
You just kept thinking about the fact that you couldn't roll your R's.
That's true. I actually can't drill my R's. I did some drills. I was able to improve the dexterity of my tongue. I'm not sure if it's because I have an overbite or
New breed of
aliens.
Lasers can't hurt this baddie, so find another way to defeat it.
So unlocking a new weapon, presumably.
It is, this is actually pretty scary. Type G. Oh boy.
Oh my gosh.
I need to feed him
just
to death. He's gonna go and eat my fish unless I feed him.
Fortunately, we have Splork or whatever up top. What's his name? Zorf.
I wish that he would throw food. Oh, come on.
Well, it appears that he neither does that, but it also appears that your fish are frozen in stasis and not going to continue to get hungry. So that's a good thing to know if you're...
This is the most intense fish I've ever fed.
If you're...
Come on.
A new... You did it! And now we can quickly feed the fishies and they're just fine.
It's a bit tricky. I actually have to upgrade... Oh, nice. What are you doing down there? What are you doing down there? I need... I have to actually upgrade my food quality and quantity to deal with Gus, rather than my laser. So now my goal is to get each of these... I'm taking it a bit slower, as you can see. I'm more carefully getting each of my fish upgraded. Prego is great when you have carnivores and the like, but...
Got this great, like, 80s elevator music.
Oh,
this
yeah.
is so 80s. I love it.
Oh, he's running while he's in the sky. It is. It's so memorable. I can't help but bob up and down while I'm listening to the music.
Yeah, it's great.
Oh, he got it right before it went away.
I appreciate this game because there's no dialogue. There are some messages that you'll need to know, but you could not read English and figure out this game just fine by yourself. And I appreciate that because it makes it accessible to people who maybe don't speak English. I'm sure it's localized in pretty much every language, especially because there's so little text, but it's mostly numbers, which are a universal language, and fish, which are also a universal language.
Actually, we both speak fish. Well, Anne is more fluent than I am. I had like goldfish in my own little aquarium. I think my parents got it for me because I played games like Insaniquarium, but Anne is the one. We had a couple of fish named Miss FISHer and Dionne Warwick. Those are references to some shows that we really love.
And some great women, so if you're interested in finding out some amazing female characters, definitely look them up. Though Dionne Warwick is not a character, she is a singer. She's got a beautiful voice. Yeah, I grew up with a lot of pets. My parents, that was the one area that I was indulged. I absolutely loved animals, and We constantly had dogs and cats. We had mice. We had fish. We had a little crab. We've had chickens, horses. We had a cow once. What else?
Get over here. Oh, what are you doing? No!
Oh no. Okay, so
Zorf?
he can eat your purchased guys, I see.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's a bummer.
Oh, I feel a little bit betrayed right now. Zorf.
Oh.
I was just thinking maybe I won't get Zorf in the next one because I like being able to control the food that my fish are getting, and you're not making it easy for me.
I do miss our fish. I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot. I didn't know that much about keeping fish, and you really shouldn't keep them in bowls. You can do that, and there are ways to keep your fish healthy, but it's really not good to keep them in bowls, and you will need to clean them and keep the water changed frequently. So just bear that in mind if you're thinking about getting a pet. You will definitely want to get a tank because otherwise you're just poisoning your fish.
It's like washing your clothes or changing the sheets on your bed. You have to do that for your fish because that's the air that they're living and breathing every day.
It's not good, but I learned a lot, and I really enjoyed having fish. I was in college for a very long time, and I worked for a university. He's so goofy. I love his giggle.
It just scares
he sounds like
me so much.
Patrick.
He does a little bit.
It's Patrick's laugh.
He's even got a bit of the
Patrick from SpongeBob SquarePants. I'm sure every single person listening to this knew immediately who I was talking about.
Of course.
Yeah, I love fish. I always wanted my own pet. I mean, I had pets growing up, but spent a lot of time in college, and it wasn't responsible for me to get them just because my finances were not always stable. But about a year and a half ago, I just made the impulse buy and bought 2 beautiful betas. And I miss them. I really miss them. They have pretty good personalities. I think people assume that fish, because there is a literal divide, that fish don't have personalities, or that I don't like the dory.
Well, goldfish only remember every 5 seconds and then they forget.
Fish don't, that's nonsense. That's not true at all. That's completely inaccurate. These are living, intelligent creatures. And they absolutely have personalities, and you can train them to do tricks, and they'll interact with you, and they can enjoy your company, though if you don't treat them well, of course they would not be happy to see you.
I mean, Miss Fisher, she was constantly...
This laugh is
so since I've got it upgraded, I've got my food upgraded to max, I don't even have to think about the laser for that.
Oh, we'll just feed this guy until he disappears and gives us a diamond. What were you saying about Miss Fisher?
She would always... She greeted when you saw her... Oh, I keep getting too many... Oh, I'm done anyway. Didn't have to watch any of the star catchers die. And we got Rufus, the fiddler crab. So if you get enemies to the bottom of the tank, he'll bash on them with his claw, which is really nice. I don't tend to use the fighty pets. I just don't quite need them at this point because I've learned enough about the enemy patterns. But that just comes from years and years of experience. But yeah, Miss Fisher she was clearly engaged with us, and she would participate. I guess I'll bring Rufus out just because he's a cutie. So I'm not bringing Zorf. He made me a little upset by luring that Gus over. That's what the type G stands for, is Gus. So I'm instead gonna try this setup, see how it goes. But fish, like dogs, you can say that dogs or chickens are dumb. You can say cats are mean, or that they're unfeeling, but it's just not true.
You've clearly never been around animals if you think that. People are the worst.
It's like cows. You know, people think that cows are very...
ears, they're so cute.
And people think that they're not very, very self-aware.
It's just nonsense. It's just not true.
You know, imagine if you were... if you were sitting on a bus and you saw somebody on their phone and then somebody screams and the person on their phone didn't look up from their phone, you'd say, wow, you know, that kind of person they never take their eyes off their phone. Like, that's type D. Uh-oh. Good thing I brought Rufus along. Oh no!
Oh, Rufus is beating him up. Look at some of those punching.
Look at that. You have to shoot his rockets out of the sky.
Oh, I see. Good job, Rufus.
I am sorry that I ever doubted you.
No, that was great. He keeps them in place so that you can focus on getting those rockets out of the water.
I was expecting more Gussi. That's the plural for Gus. Most people think it's Gus's, but it's not. It's Gussi. Or Gussie, depending on your accent.
The song reminds me of something, and I'm not sure what it is.
Reminds me of Insaniquarium.
I bet it does. Whoops.
Oh, I did that on purpose. I wanted to see who was hungry so that I could strategically feed them a star potion. And now I can start filtering in these star catchers.
This is so fun. If any of you have fish, you should let us know what their names are.
Yeah.
Or any other pets. We love animals. My younger sister has recently discovered the joy of the alpaca and is hoping that she and her partner will be able to afford a house with a little bit of property, and they'll be able to have alpacas. They're really sweet. They're very friendly and funny animals. They are pretty easy to maintain. We're lucky enough to live in an area. Oh, he's gonna shoot him. You got it, babe. He's gonna kill your fishy. You got him. We were lucky enough to live in an area where it was possible to have a lot of animals and livestock, so we got to experience a lot of things. There's a lot of wildlife as well. Eagles and hawks and cranes. I saw an eagle that flew overhead. The farm that we were living on was in an area where there were quite a lot of bald eagles, actually, but it flew overhead, and I had learned in school, I enjoy biology and I like animals, so I learned that eagles were large, and I know the facts about eagles, but actually seeing it fly overhead, it was quite high overhead. It was absolutely enormous. It was so big. And we've had pelicans, we've had cranes, they're all big birds, but eagles,
some geese get
just
very big.
Massive. It was so big. So we've had a couple of those. We had big migrations of I think starlings. That was one of the most incredible things.
Man,
I can't emphasize enough how little people believed me. I think about my estimate. I honestly can't give an estimation. There were the clouds of birds flying overhead was just incredible. It was so fun. I felt a little bit wild watching them. And then there was another kind of bird. Get him, Rufus! Rufus is great. I like him. I love the punching sound effect.
I regret doubting him.
You slandered his good name, sir.
No, and he has
For that,
done
he must
nothing but
demand satisfaction.
It's, I mean, in a related thing, like, I only ever saw things like chickens, cows, even geese in these parks and in very controlled environments. So to suddenly be living on a farm and then to see chickens, like to hear our rooster graveyard crowing, to see him flap his wings, and
he is a big buddy.
I used to think that hawks, because one of the main types of hawks I'd ever heard of was a chicken hawk, So I assumed that that's just a normal thing, that hawks hunt chickens. It's not, because hawks are barely as big as chickens.
And presumably that's where the name comes from, maybe, that they're the size of a chicken? I really don't know. But yeah, hawks pretty much just eat gophers, which is great. That's definitely needed in an agricultural area. Our farm cat Fidget was an incredible hunter. I've had a lot of really cool pets, but Fidge just astounded me with how good he was. Just like Rufus.
Yeah, oh my goodness.
Just reliable and helpful and keeping those gophers from eating our vegetables and eating mice so that they didn't eat our grain and seeds. And Fidget is great, actually. When we got him, he was expected to be an outside cat. We had a dog, but he was an inside dog mostly. But Fidget was expected to keep the mice from eating the chicken feed and causing problems in the chicken coop and shed area. So he and the chickens have a beautifully symbiotic relationship. They are buddies. Fidget plays with them. He's kind of pestery sometimes, but the chickens like him too. And he would play with one of our hens, Sprite, and they would chase each other around the lilacs. And Fidge, he is just always with the chickens. He follows them around during the day. He sunbathes with them. He hunts with them when they're out foraging for food because they're free range. And he's a great little buddy.
Got it.
Yay! Good job.
And we
There
get
we go.
Meryl.
I've never met her. She's
is
the
my
icon.
favorite.
She's the character that you see at the beginning. I've never met her before. This is really fun. Ooh, makes him drop coins faster. I'm not sure that's good. That's super hard to collect.
It is. It ends up being really nice though, because every now and then you get a really good boost. So I'm gonna take these.
What does he do? He just drops gold?
He does, and
do
it's.
you want to pick like? I'm not sure. What is the whatever it's called?
Actually, maybe Clyde with Meryl, because Clyde picks things up.
I'm thinking, yeah, maybe something that collects might be better.
I like the amount of money that I get
but I
from
think
Vert at the beginning.
I mean, I trust you. You've played this game, but I feel like, at least for me, it's nice to have something that collects if I'm going to be... Plus, you don't necessarily need to have... As much as I've enjoyed Rufus, you could have an additional collector guy, right? You don't have to have Rufus.
I could get...
So you could have...
I could get Stinky as well.
Stinky, Clyde, and how do you feel about that?
So since I'm planning on having a bunch of star catchers with my guppies, then when Meryl makes them sing, she'll just drop a ton of stuff.
So it might be useful then to have extra collectors. And you do pretty good with combat.
Yeah, I have a fast clicker.
Yeah. I feel like you should do that.
Do you want to do one more? See if we can...
Why don't we use this team on the next video?
That sounds like a great idea.
I think this is a pretty good run. Thanks for watching. Arrivederci.
I was gonna say hola, but what I meant was aloha. Because we're living in Hawaii now, so...
Dos vidania.
Adios. That's it.